Have you ever thought about the benefits of adopting a dog? Well, we're going to tell you from the perspective of our shelter, the dog itself, and you as an individual.
According to the Do Something organization, a puppy mill is a commercial dog breeding facility that focuses on increasing profit with little overhead costs. The health and welfare of animals is not a priority. Countless female dogs used for breeding and their puppies are murdered by a deprivation of love that shelters have the capability of providing.
By adopting a puppy from our shelter, you're demonstrating your support towards living conditions that are ethical. Conditions that provide both a happy and healthy environment for these animals to live in.
In fact, adoption centers benefit in other ways as well when you adopt a dog. By freeing up space in the adoption center, you are allowing them to provide better and more individualized care for the dogs who still call it a home, and more space to take in the numerous dogs in need.
When a shelter becomes crowded, like it would be since there are 7.5 million animals entering shelters every year, it creates an inhumane environment for the pets as they are not getting adequate space and exercise and food, and are subject to countless diseases and infections from other pets. These conditions are unethical, and to save the life of not just one dog, but many, you must adopt.
Approximately 3 million dogs are killed in shelters every year. When you adopt, you are reducing the number of dogs that are euthanized while simultaneously saving the life of your helpless pup who yearns for the protection that your home can provide.
You have the power to be one of the 1.6 million owners per year that adopt a dog, giving them a new home. Just imagine the sound of your new best friend, barking for joy, welcoming you at the door every day.
As a new owner of a lovable dog, you will experience the incredible impacts that infinite love has on your ideal quality of life. It's truly winning the lottery. Regardless of the events which you endure and are forced to face, your pet will always be there demonstrating complete devotion at the end of an emotionally draining day.
The greatest part about receiving this devotion is that it can come from a dog that you personally pick out. The options are endless at our shelter, as 25% of all rescued dogs are purebreds, while the remaining percentile is made up of unique, one-of-a-kind dogs, like Blue, who is a Border Collie, Australian Cattle Dog, and German Shepherd mix.
We can ensure that whichever dog you may pick, it will be fully vaccinated, as well as spayed or neutered, as that is the standard practice for most shelters. Up front, this will cut down on costs, as these are mandatory procedures when adding a dog to your family.
Speaking of saving money, adopting a dog from any shelter is far less costly than purchasing one from a puppy mill or a breeder. You'll be saving money, all while providing your family with their ideal companion that did not come from a puppy mill or a breeder.
You will thank yourself for adopting from a shelter, particularly due to the high probability of your new dog already being fully trained, unlike from a puppy mill or breeder. This gives you the opportunity to jump right in and enjoy your dog stress-free.
If you adopt a dog today, not only will you make a difference in their life, your new friend will promise to make a difference in yours. To create this commercial, we used 3 persuasive devices: logos, ethos, pathos, along with 11 different rhetorical devices.
Our commercial is targeting people who are financially stable and can provide a safe and loving home for a new dog. This way, the adoption is ethical and each party involved receives maximum benefits.
First, let's briefly define logos, ethos, and pathos.
Logos is an appeal to logic. In our commercial, to demonstrate logos, we used facts.
Ethos is an appeal to ethics, and we used it by making statements that correlate to identifying actions that are morally right and wrong.
Pathos is an appeal to emotion. To use pathos effectively in our commercial, we made statements that would evoke an emotional response from the audience to further convince them on our topic.
Next, we will explain each persuasive device used and their intended effect. Let's start with logos.
The first place where logos was used can be seen below. We defined what a puppy mill was and their purpose using a reliable organization. This allows the audience to draw a conclusion that you should never get your dog from a puppy mill based on the fact that we stated.
As you can see, logos was used in this statement as well. The conclusion that overcrowding a shelter is detrimental to the lives of dogs is drawn because of the supporting fact that 3 million dogs are killed in shelters every year.
Logos can be seen in the statement below as the fact that 1.6 million people adopt dogs every year was said. This allows audience members to draw the conclusion that adopting a dog is not an uncommon practice and is certainly safe, causing them to yearn for an adopted puppy as well.
The example shows below that the conclusion drawn is that your options when adopting a dog are far from being restricted, as there are so many diverse types at shelters, and this is backed up by facts that state the percentages of types of dogs that make up shelters, making it an example of logos.
Logos is demonstrated when making the two statements seen below, as we voice the fact that shelters will spay and neuter their dogs to avoid overpopulation and worse living conditions for the dogs. This allows viewers to conclude that the price of adopting a dog is much lower opposed to breeders and puppy mills.
Logos is displayed since we acknowledge the fact that most dogs are fully trained, providing the audience with the understanding that permits them to conclude that an adoption center is a much better option compared to breeders and puppy mills, saving the owner time.
Logos is clearly seen since a hard fact was said, making it evident that the audience should conclude that if they do not adopt, the shelter will become overcrowded and unsuitable for dogs.
Our final example of logos can be viewed below. The fact that these dogs do not get enough of each item listed allows the audience to draw the same conclusion mentioned above, that without them adopting these dogs, they will be subject to bad living conditions.
Next, ethos was used in a variety of places to further convince our audience of our message.
Our first place in which logos was used also exhibited ethos. Since we stated a fact from a reliable source, Do Something Organization, we are establishing reliability and credibility early on so that our viewers will be persuaded more easily.
We also used ethos in a different way, by making statements on what is morally right and wrong. By making the statement below, we are saying that it is unethical to purchase your dog from a breeder or a puppy mill, and therefore we can convince the audience through ethos that you should always adopt.
Additionally, ethos was used in these two statements since we let the audience know that it is unethical for an adoption center to be overcrowded, as the dogs will not get the required care. Once again, this will convince them that the morally right conditions can be provided if you adopt, therefore making them want to do just that.
Finally, pathos was used in a variety of different places to convey emotion within our audience.
Convincing the audience is made much easier when emotion is used, like in this quote seen below. By saying that love can save the dogs, we are convincing the audience members that it is a simple solution to a complex problem, and that all they need to do is adopt the dog, and the love will follow, making it a prime example of pathos.
Our next demonstration of pathos occurs in the quote below. We are making an emotional statement that if you do not adopt, the dogs will be extremely mistreated and ultimately killed, which does not need to happen if they adopt.
Our last persuasive device in the form of pathos was used below. The emotional relationship that you will have with your dog will be nothing but endless love. They will always welcome you home and be there for you no matter what is going on in your life. This is emotional for many people and would convince our audience that adoption will allow you to receive a lifelong companion.
We also used a variety of rhetorical devices to enhance the commercial and ensure that audience members are convinced to adopt a dog.
The first rhetorical device we used was hypophora. We asked a question, then proceeded to answer it in the following lines. This helps to convince viewers because by asking a question that the audience does not know the answer to, you are causing them to become intrigued and want to continue watching so that they can become educated.
Below is our second device, repetition anatoplosis. This sentence is split into two sections, separated by a dash. At the end of the first section, the word love is said, and the same word begins the next thought. This aids in convincing the audience because it adds beauty, and also logically connects the two thoughts.
Repetition conduplicatio is the next device that was used in this commercial. The device also involves the repetition of words for emphasis, but in this scenario, the keyword conditions is being repeated from the middle of a previous phrase at the beginning of the next. We are not letting the audience forget that the correct conditions must be present for a shelter to be ethical, and them adopting will aid this.
In the statement below, the rhetorical device expletive was used. It provides emphasis to the preceding thought and is most effective in short statements when words such as in fact are used. In the case of our commercial, expletive helped to introduce the idea of ways in which adoption centers will benefit from adoption, ultimately convincing the audience of our topic.
Parenthesis was the next rhetorical device that we chose to use. It is the insertion of one sentence or thought into another. This device allows us to give the audience more information that will further persuade them to adopt a dog.
The sixth device used to further persuade our viewers is polysynton. As you can see, this is when a conjunction is inserted between each item on a list, in this case, and. Like many of the other devices, it adds additional emphasis to the tragic events of overcrowded shelters, sending out a cry for help to the audience.
Next, onomatopoeia was appropriately used to bring our audience closer to the dogs themselves. We used the word bark, which imitates the sound of a dog barking. This device makes our sentence seem more lively and engaging.
We also used a metaphor to further connect with our viewers. By saying that you are getting incredible impacts by adopting a dog, we are comparing it to the same emotion the audience would feel if they won the lottery, giving them perspective on the situation.
The ninth rhetorical device that we used was alliteration, in terms of the letter I. This allowed us to call attention to the emotion that dogs bring out in their owners. It makes the sentence more interesting and appealing to the audience, convincing them to continue listening.
One last repetition device that we felt would strengthen our commercial was repetition epistrophe. The phrase we continually repeated at the end of 3 successive sentences was a puppy mill or breeder. It was significant that we repeated these lines because it kept the thought that puppy mills and breeders should not be supported when choosing adoption is a viable option in the forefront of viewers' minds.
For our 11th and last rhetorical device, we used personification. This amplified the emotion the audience is already feeling by giving the adopted dog human-like qualities, such as making a promise, to connect on a whole new level.
Thank you for watching our commercial and teaching.
We hope that you have learned more profoundly about the persuasive and rhetorical devices.